Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of the Detect Magic series. Now, for a time I've been writing scripts and recording them, sharing the wide, magical world of Dungeons and Dragons with you, my faithful audience, and I'm very happy with the response I've had so far. But the last few days I've been troubled by a shocking thought. You see, what does it matter if I can tell you all about the wide world of magic if you can't even pronounce the darn things in it? Yes, my friends, today we are going to delve into the strange world of pronunciation. Because if you can't pronounce the name of the spell, demon or wizard, how the heck are you ever going to master it, pact it, or duel it? And while we're there, I'll give you some interesting tidbits of knowledge that a surprisingly small number of people actually know. First up, RERM. RERM. Did you know an RERM was originally created to combat sleepwalking wizards, waking them up when the sleep demons took their body on a joyride intent on evil? Eventually, other spellcasters discovered the RERM spell and twisted it to wake them up whenever anyone walked in, which makes it very difficult to tuck in your partner when they roll out of the blankets at 2 AM and you've been up all night playing games. Next, ANTIPATHY-SYMPATHY. Now you may think that I've missed the pronunciation correction, but on contrary, as the cultured world would say, the spell has to be said in full every time, as you only make the decision for which way the pushy hands direct you at the completion of the cast. If they were separate, then you'd see sympathy-antipathy later on in the spell list, and you don't. Fun fact! Antipathy-sympathy was originally the name of a different spell, one that created a deeper understanding with people who didn't want to be around others, and maybe didn't want all the stress and emotional investment in being around others. And maybe, just maybe, you've been the monster all along for wanting to be close to them, when they're clearly having an off day. Now then, AZMO DEUCE. AZMO DEUCE's true form is that of a giant snake that was so large that he couldn't attend any of the garden parties of other demon lords. Once he tried at Zariel's botanical party, but manifested right above the dinner table and destroyed the entire 17-course banquet. AZMO DEUCE managed to blame a bunch of other demons and came out on top as the planner of future parties, but resolved to use human avatars from then on. Because of the destruction of the expensive food and table, the event was thereafter known as the Reckoning. Next, A-ZUTH. ZUTH was an old god of sorcerers that was always sleeping in, failed all his exams, and yet still became ultra powerful, claiming that he'd fight a monster, go to sleep, and wake up knowing a brand new spell. Wizards hated that, and so created a god that was the antithesis of that, where power came from never going out, sleeping regular hours and working a timetable day of study and mastering magic the right way. The opposite of the ZUTH. The anti-ZUTH, the A-ZUTH. Did you know that after AZMO DEUCE absorbed A-ZUTH, A-ZUTH has been recreated for 5th edition and now is informally known as B-ZUTH? Quick fact, blindness deafness was originally known only as deafness because the original creator wizard was a method actor and wrote the blindness parts in invisible ink, meaning no one could see them. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back after this message from our sponsor. There once was a magical mastodon who had money to spend on whatever's on. And so he did go, right after the show, to the channel creator's Patreon. Red's blue. You'd have to be a fool not to sign up this April. And we're back. And now we're going with Call LIFTNING. You see, D&D centers around medieval times, and the medieval times were invented by England, which means that the GH in that word is predominantly pronounced as an F. We should all honor the roots of D&D, and call LIFTNING from now on. And now we have confusion? Being that creates a random and confused person who questions their very sanity, confusion is correctly pronounced with the same questioning tone. Fun fact about confusion? The wizard was trying to cast a different spell and choked on his spit halfway through, which caused a bit of repeatable magic that we now call confusion. Catherine Brielle. According to Google, Catty Brie is a shortening of the names Catherine and Brielle. Now, I'm not going to suggest that we tell a woman what her name is. She knows what it is, and she deserves respect for whatever identity she chooses for herself. We all do. But when you're getting something signed by a justice of the peace, or renewing a passport, providing her with a character reference for a new job in applied kinesthetic psychology, or even taking the stand as a witness in her favour at court, it will go a long way if you can remember to say Catherine Brielle. And now, Dispel Magic. Did you know it took 12 consecutive castings of Dispel Magic to remove the spell plague? DRAJIN. For alliterative and copyright purposes, Wizards of the Coast would prefer that we pronounce it Dungeons and Dragons. Fun fact, Dragons were originally only in red, but were expanded out to their other colours to appeal to gay people and to stop discrimination against people who are colourblind. And now, EERTH. It's pronounced this way as a health and safety method. You wouldn't believe the number of wizards who die each year to hearing something yell, "Earthquake!" and try to dispel magic instead of getting under a table. The pronunciation was changed only a few years ago upon order of AZUTH. Incidentally, speaking of wizards, we should take this opportunity to remind people that Elminster is not his name but his title, El meaning the and Minster being an English word for a type of church. Elminster, the church, means you can pray near him in order to have Mistra hear you. His real name, as always, is Melvin Copper. Next up, FEEREE FIEREE. AE in England can be seen most commonly in medieval and is pronounced E. And the Fae love a good assonance, and so the spell was named by them FEEREE FIEREE. And let me tell you, they're horrified that you all think that the group of people who live in, around, or under trees would want to name their signature spell for something that would burn it all. Everyone lose an inspiration point by way of apology. And finally, in part 1 of this incredibly useful series, Frebble. Did you know a Frebble's heat isn't fire from nothing, because if it was, there's no such thing as ducking through pure flame and taking half or no damage. Instead, what people don't often know is Frebble summons tiny bits of carpet and propel these out at massive speeds. The damage is all carpet burn. Also, as the Frebble can be cast to cover one monster or many, it's technically a targeted spell. For game mechanics, I would therefore recommend you remind your players that you may add your intelligence or charisma modifier to each die of damage. Sorry DMs, it's just rules as written. And that is where we're going to end today's magical pronunciation and knowledge guide. If you have any questions, feel free to write them in the comments below, and until next time, to be continued.